Computer. Hey guys, welcome back. This is Millennial Anti-Terrorizers. And today we are going to talk about how we got recruited and got into the military. Starting off, I am Beth Chumbley, United States Marine Corps. I was a motor transport operator.
Jared Brody, United States Army, 19th Delta Cavalry Scout.
Alex Amaro, United States Marine Corps, Motor Transportation.
Nolan Cochran, United States Marine Corps, 0331, Infantry Machine Gunner.
All right, guys. Well, kind of starting off, let's talk about how was the recruitment station process? What kind of got you going and how did you get there? So starting with you, Brody, how did this go for you?
I, you know, it's kind of it was a left field type thing. It was just, I literally was driving home one day from Blockbuster Video job, and
Oh my God,
I was
Blockbuster
just,
drop.
yeah,
Name drop.
Haven't heard that. Haven't
yeah,
heard that word in a minute.
that's ancient, right? Uh, but yeah, no, I literally just saw the recruiting station, and I actually turned around at the end of the street and went back. And I'm like, let's go. Like I'm done with all this bullshit. So-
Right.
and I mean, I had, obviously September 11th and, all that kind of crap too. So um, that kind of pulled me towards it. Um, but not a lot of people in my family ever joined up. I mean, like I have a great uncle that was in Vietnam, and then that's pretty much it. And so it was kind of, like I said, a very random decision. Um, but it was okay. Like when I went in there, um, yeah, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I know I didn't want to be a Marine. Uh,
Fuck you.
I wanted gear and like cool shit, so like I was gonna
Let's
choose the
stay warm.
army.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, I went in there and started talking to the dude and it kind of flourished from there.
Okay, what
Nice.
about you, Alex?
I was in ROTC in high school, and if those of you that don't know, Reserve Officer Training Corps is a college and a high school thing that it's more of a junior level in high school, so it's JROTC, and so you kind of just get the ins and outs like you would in regular ROTC in college, and it works towards your you going into the service as well for your benefit. Um, so I did that in high school. It was Marine Corps JROTC program, part of the 12th Marine Corps District, and I did that all 4 years in high school. So I kind of already knew what I was getting myself into. Like if you're an ROTC and you're going into the military and you kind of still figure out like, oh shit, what the hell? Then you just weren't paying attention or something. So you get the ins and out. We would take field trips rigorously to all the bases in Southern California related to the Marine Corps, and every year, usually beginning of like this around this time of the year, we'd go to the recruit depot in San Diego and watch a recruit graduation, and the night before we'd show up, get the permission from the parents and all to do an overnight, and they'd run us through the yellow footprints in that first. You guys remember the first portion of boot camp when you step on the yellow footprints? They'd read you the whole
Yeah,
spiel
the
on the wall,
portal.
and then
Yeah.
yep, then you'd go in and you'd empty your pockets. What you got on? Go through the. So they ran us through that and said this is what the recruits are going to go through night one, and they haven't, this and that, and then we'd stay overnight in some barracks, the empty barracks across the parade deck, and then we'd have our Charlies on in uniform the next day, sitting in the bleachers, and we'd watch graduate. And usually we'd have it if we worked it out throughout the right timing, it'd be a cadet from last year, like a senior cadet the year prior, who's now who just happens to be graduating at this time. So we might be there watching a few cadets graduating from our program prior. but if not, it would just be the average year. And then talking with recruiters throughout the time I was in high school, I was on color guard. So I was on the drill pad and competitions constantly. I had Marine drill instructors as well as other like Air Force, Army, Navy personnel who were either from the drill field or have the time off to and was asked to be there to do that. But most of the time, they'd always try to get Marine drill instructors who are off on their cycle to come in and stand in and uh, really give the cadets that holy shit, dude. So maybe we might lose our focus or fumble on our questions when they or mess up on our drill pad. And so going into the Marine Corps after that for me was just an bam boom transition, like an easy transition. I knew what I was getting into. I knew that the recruiters were going to lie to me or try to do this or do that so I knew what not to sign and what to look for. Well, what I wanted to do was join infantry. I think I wanted to go recon and try to test my luck to see if I wanted to be to make it scout sniper. And yeah, I kind of said some shit I probably shouldn't have said in front of my dad and the recruiter. Like, yeah, I want to fucking kill people. What the fuck else would I choose this specific job? And so at this point in time, though, this was like 2008, and we're already talking almost a decade into the war. And my recruiter literally told me, dude, I understand you want to serve and do your part and be a patriotism, but at this point in time in the war, your mentality
Okay.
when you go into the military, doesn't matter what branch. He was saying, he said at this point in the war, like he already had like, recruiters almost like have that insight because of all the numbers they get from Washington and shit, because they got to show all the data to the parents and to the individuals that are going in and picking that whatever field of expertise that they're picking in the MOS. Like,
I was a little bit different. My family's always been in the military. Like, there's always somebody in the military per generation, and nobody was a Marine. A lot of Coast Guard, Navy, and some Army. A little bit of Army Air Corps. No, not really Air Force. So that was pretty much World War II stuff. I kind of hung around with them a lot, like at family functions, and like hear stories. And some were combat veterans, some were non-combat, peacetime veterans, just depend on which was the uncle or whatever. And so I did 2 years California Cadet Corps in junior high, and then 4 years in Junior Reserve Officer Training Corps, U.S. Army in high school. And I was a cadet sergeant major, so being a LET 4, the Army's like, hey, we'll give you E3, PFC. We'll give you any division you want to pick, and whatever division you pick, you can stay there all 20 years. They were telling me all these things because they were really wanting this. This is during peacetime under Clinton in high school. And so I was all ready to go in the Army. I hadn't signed anything yet. This is my junior year. And then my senior year, the beginning of my senior year, a friend of mine came back from boot camp. And he said that, and this is what convinced me to go in the Marines. He says, who do you want watching your back? Do you want somebody watching your back that wants to be in the military? Or do you want somebody watching your back in the Army there to get their GI Bill? They don't give a shit about nothing else. They're just there to get their GI Bill. This is peacetime. Mind you, this is before 9/11. And when he said it like that, I was like, fuck, because I've seen some of the guys in high school the last few years go into like the National Guard, the Army National Guard. A few went in the Navy or Air Force, but most of the guys were going like in the National Guard or U.S. Army. And I'm like, yeah. So I talked to a recruiter. It wasn't simple. It was a long process because the Marine Corps at this time was like, we're full. There's not that many slots open. You got to lie to get in. You got to bribe somebody. You got to know somebody to get in the Marine Corps at this time. And this was in 1999. And I went into the delayed entry program, and we'll get into that later. But yeah, no, it was the Army was willing to give me hookers.
I don't go to school and I kill people. Whatever. I do what I want.
And the Marine Corps is more like, you want to polish my boots, boy?
How would you like to suck my balls?
You know? So it was night and day on that. And when I went there, it was interesting because like both Army and Marines were squared away, but like the Marines were a little bit more treating us like adults already. You know what I mean? Because they're a little bit more vulgar, they're a little more crude, a little bit more rough. Where the Army was more professional in knowing that they're dealing with high school kids, underage, minor, 17-year-olds who took the ASVAB in the library at, in November or wherever it was, kind of thing. And we'll talk about the next subject. Beth, your turn, I believe, is
Yeah.
yours.
So I never even considered military, period. What got me steered in that, because they always pushed my brother actually to be military. It was more my dad. He wanted him to be Air Force pilot so bad because Top Gun was really big back in the 90s. So I'm assuming that's why. Whatever. Um, I actually did it right out of high school, not right out of high school. I take that back. It was like a year after high school. I was actually wanting to do college because college wasn't working out as a photographer. It was film photography. It's just too expensive. So my mom tried to put me in, worked 3 months into it, and she just pulled me out. It's too expensive. So I was just kind of working job to job, trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. And it just occurred to me, let's just try the military because I was one of those people. I'm like, I got to do something. My parents are just want me out of the house probably. So I started with the Army, I'm just talking to the Navy, stuff like that. Talking to the Army, they were all trying to enlist me at the same time right now. So I went through MEPS. Same thing with how I got the motor T through Marine Corps. I was getting an ASVAB score. I was promised like different things. I don't remember back then, but the Army, I remember preparing for a test, and because he wasn't very successful, he's like, just take the best answer. And the way he was talking to me, kind of right there, already just kind of made me feel ill about that branch alone. So I wasn't really excited about joining, waiting on the Navy more so. And all I remember about them is that I actually got in. So I chose them going in. I don't remember the job career I was going to do, but I just know I was going to join. So I did November. So October of 2001, I was going to go to Great Lakes, Illinois. I was like, okay, that sounds great. But it wasn't like until then that the Marine Corps had called my house. I've never heard of the Marine Corps before. I didn't really learn it in school. Nobody's ever talked about it. Nobody in my family has ever joined the or the Marine Corps. I've always heard about the Army or the Navy, maybe Air Force from maybe World War II family era, but that's about it. So I was like, okay, I'm like, what the heck is the Marine Corps? I'll go check it out. I thought it was the Navy calling my house. So that's the only reason why I picked up the phone, thinking it was them calling me needing something. But now they're like, oh, we're the Marine Corps. You should come check us out. And I was like, all right. I figured, why not? It's because I stepped foot in their office and they were all wearing their dress. I think it's Deltas that they were. I forget what it was. But anyways, their khaki uniform, short sleeves,
Yeah,
and just the way they
Deltas.
presented themselves. I hadn't said anything yet. It was just so different compared to every other branch I had looked at. I was like, it just felt like home. Like this is my fit. This is my job. Just looking at them, the way they weren't fat like the Navy. Like these guys were big and round. They couldn't even fit into their uniforms, or the Army. And like I just said, like he couldn't even comprehend how to help me with my ASVAB test. I'm like, how can I trust you? So already right there, I just like, you guys hold yourselves to a higher standard. I see this being good. And just the way they talked to me, I still remember my recruiter to this day. But yeah, it was just the uniforms that drew me into the branch. And I eventually just said, yeah, I can't say yes to the Navy. I dropped probably that week saying I changed my mind or something like that. And a month later, I was in the Marine Corps going to boot camp. But I'm going to leave it right there. All right, so kind of moving on
I
from
pulled a
there, I like
Nolan.
hearing everybody's stories. I know it's kind of unique where everybody comes from. By the way, Blockbuster was the best name drop ever.
Dude,
No,
I
yes.
haven't heard
I know
that
that
in a
was
hot minute.
awesome. I was like, Blockbuster. I haven't thought about them in a while. one, were you guys ever offered a bonus or anything going into the into the Army or the Marine Corps?
I'll go first. No.
I wasn't either. I was like, they're just excited they got me.
So yeah, for me, like it was kind of hard choosing the MOS, honestly, because I took the ASVAB and I scored really, really high. And they kept on trying to pull me for like satellite communications or, nuclear or some shit like that. And I literally wanted to be infantry. And I sat and argued with the guy at MEPS over and over for probably 45 minutes to an hour.
Yeah.
And he finally showed me a video of the Cav Scouts, and it's a ridiculous video. None of that shit actually happens. Like they were on fucking dirt bikes, like jumping over sand dunes with fucking Uzis and shit,
What?
Like none of that happened. But
Please.
when he offered me that, because he said infantry had no bonus and the Cav Scouts had a $3,000 bonus. And I'm like, $3,000? I'm like, I literally work at Blockbuster. Like, let's do this. $3,000 like a yearly salary there. So that's
Right.
that's what I ended up with. And then I found out later, like I get to OSIT training, which is kind of like boot camp, but OSIT, like almost every single person had $15,000 or more. And I'm like, motherfucker. So,
Jeez. Right.
A bonus to me, from what my recruiter told me, like in the Army and the Air Force, a lot of that sign up bonus is like right there. That's kind of what entitles individuals to maybe choose that branch of service, because they know, oh, hey, look, here's the bonus right here. But in the Marine Corps, it's that whole title of the few, the proud, is for a reason. They're looking for those individuals that are not just looking at the cash flow coming in, and so in some ways they'll give out bonuses, but it's not something that they'll tell you until like you've already graduated boot camp or some shit.
I was gonna say, because I have broken service, which we'll talk about here shortly. Not my first time going in, like I just talked about. I don't even remember the job field I had was given, but there was no bonuses at that time because it was like I said, November of 2020, 2001, as you were. So we already know the war just kicked off, and the war is getting ready to kick off. But yeah, they needed anybody. There were no bonuses, I think, at the time. But going back in the Marine Corps, yeah, there was tons of bonuses. And I mean, we'll talk about MOSs right here now. Did you get the MOS you wanted? I want to hear if you all did. It sounds like Brody, you fought pretty hard for your MOS.
yeah, like I said, I really wanted infantry because I wanted to go airborne and I wanted to go down that route. Because I wanted to fight. Like I don't want to fucking do anything else. But they kept on pulling me towards Cav Scout, and I don't regret it an instant. Like, I mean, I love being a cavalry scout. But yeah, I kind of wonder what would happen if I just kept on pressing them for infantry. So,
Right. Of course. Alex, what about you? Was that the MOS that you were really kind of well, you were saying infantry, but I mean,
Yeah,
from your own
like Brody's
experience, are
saying,
you kind
dude,
of
I
glad you
kind
went
of just
into
really
that
wanted.
job field though?
Yeah, like Brody was saying, I kind of agreed on that too. I just really I wanted to fight, dude, and they kind of had my recruiter had to like lay down
Fulfilled
those
you.
numbers with
He
me and
straight up
like
just told me like, dude,
look
this is gonna be
things
this
up,
war's gonna
and
go
it
on for
kind of
like another
was
10 years, dude.
him and
I
my
guarantee
dad
you.
that
And he
talked me
said, so
out
your
of it, and then my
mentality
dad
while
brought up,
you go into the
my
military and,
uncle
and
living
serve
out here, his younger
should
brother,
be
he's been
how
driving
not about like
for
how can I
Western
survive
Sugar
this war? Like
for like
he was like
20
straight up
plus
telling me like,
years,
dude, I
like
get it.
almost
You want to
30
go be a
years now.
patriotism.
And
So
so
you're
at the
one of
time,
those.
my
You're
uncle was
from
like
I
my
was
role
from that
model because my
generation
dad wasn't
that was a
around.
kid
And so it was like,
watching
oh,
the
well,
tower.
hey, dude,
You
middle
always
school
want to
watch the
emulate your
towers go
uncle.
down.
You
So the
love Chevy
patriotism
trucks,
was
and
all
since
you want to
middle
be someone who
school,
work,
and I've
why
just
don't
been
you
waiting to
go
go in. And he's
be a
like, I get
mechanic
that,
or
dude,
do
but
motor T like
this
your
war's
uncle
probably
and
going to
drive
go on for
trucks and
another
then learn
10
how
years.
to
Your mentality
do all
should
that
be
and get out
more about,
and
surviving
I
through
ended
the
up choosing
war.
it
Because thinking like, oh, it,
You know,
it
just
might
frankly,
actually
like I said, he
benefit
showed me all the data
transitioning
there.
out
He
of
gave me all
into
that
civilian life.
statistics.
Okay, like
So
truck driving
he
afterwards, or like
basically
be
threw
mechanic or something like
the
that.
bonus at me for
That's good.
motor T
What about you,
to
Nolan?
get me to
What was you thinking
sway
about
my
you're gonna get
mind
going
to
in?
not go infantry and
One of my
scout sniper in the
instructors.
route that I wanted
So
to
I
do.
wanted to do 20 years in
And
the
not only
military
that,
and then
but he
become a
was like,
JLTC instructor,
because you
like one of
kind
my
of weren't
instructors,
sure
and he
what you
was a
really wanted
tanker.
to do too.
And
I was
he was with
also
3rd
one of
ID,
those
Audie Murphy
ASVAB. I was
Division.
scoring too low.
And
And
he
so I
talked
had to
about
retake the
being,
ASVAB
thrown
multiple
on the line
times.
there
I was
on
just getting
Western
a 30,
Germany
Nolan.
with
A
the Czech
30. I was
Republic
trying to get
revolt
that
or whatever it was
31 to just
in
go
70
infantry, but I just
something.
kept getting a 30. Well, I
And
finally got like a
it just sounded cool. And he was talking
48,
about like the infantry, grilling
Mhm.
which put us in motor
on
T,
the
right,
racks
Beth?
in
It
the
was like
back, trying to stay
46 or
warm in
47
Germany,
Yeah,
West
mine was
Germany,
pretty
or
low at the
ASVAB.
whatever.
time.
And I was
So
like,
I
yeah, I don't
I
want to be
I got
infantry.
like 48, 49
I
on
want to
my,
be
so I
warm.
scored enough to,
I don't
so
want
I
to walk
started looking at
places.
what
I want
they had.
metal,
And
big
then when I
fucking
saw
cannon,
motor T,
machine guns all around.
and I
Fuck
was looking
yeah.
at the casual.
That's the signal. Go, 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 go! Let's go freaking get here! Put that shit, Dickie! Cock! That's my shit! Mother Nature just pissed her pants, dude!
Didn't get it. I
Because
had
he
the
rates at
MOS
that and
ready.
shit. I was like, all right, dude. So these
And what
guys,
happened
I might
was
see
is
some
I
action
was on a
doing
buddy
shit.
program.
Diversifies and
decided
all.
to change
All right,
from
or if I
October
could,
to
I'm
September.
run a
Well, I
motherfucker
didn't
down
know
in my
anything about the
truck, right?
fiscal year.
This motherfucker trying to stop me.
So
No,
with it, I had to
know,
change it to
and
infantry.
I
And
was still
I was
leaning
like, fine.
towards
So I
wanting to
took
do
the LAV
recon.
test, light
And he
armored
was like, hey,
vehicle
look, man, I don't
reconnaissance.
normally, and this is where he
It's like
told
the
me that they don't
Strikers,
do
but with
this for the
25 millimeter
Marines.
Bushmaster
We
turrets.
don't tell people who are
And
getting
it was a
bonuses
video
because we
game. I
want them to
aced
choose
it.
what
It
they
was
want to do.
fun.
And, it's kind of
And
like they look
I
at the
get
individual and
to
show
boot
and see the
camp and
commitment
SOI
that
and all
that
that
person wants
stuff
to
a
put
little bit
in. Like,
forward. But when
this
you get
other
to school of
kid
infantry
had
after boot
tattoos that he
camp,
had to get
they said you
removed.
had to have
So
a
he kind of
driver's license.
disclosed
I
in
didn't
me,
have a
hey,
driver's
this
license.
dude had to
So I
fucking go get
lost the
tattoos
chance to go
removed. He paid for that
LAV.
shit.
So I
This
had to
dude
pick when you're in
um,
SOI,
had
you
kind of like
have
a bad record, and he
multiple infantry positions. And I put down pretty much everything that was crew served, and I got machine gunners. I 0331 infantry machine gunner. So that's how I actually got your MOS, because infantry is 0300 open contract or open. There's no occupation MOS. The occupation is 03, and then the specialty is the next one. And each specialty is picked at SOI. So unless you're a
Right.
reservist, if you're a reservist, you're actually taking a slot in a specific company. And I've only met one reservist that was an 0331,
Okay.
specifically in boot camp.
Right on. For myself, I'm just talking about my second term going in. I didn't have like anything in mind I wanted to do. They were kind of just going off of numbers and what they really had available at the time. I was actually supposed to be a comm operator. And I mean, they made it sound real great, like you're going to be always on the road, kind of doing stuff. You're pretty much communicating from like A to Z, and they were talking about how great it sounded. I was like, okay, they made it sound amazing. It wasn't until I was finishing my MCT, the Marine Corps Combat Training. This is when they're getting ready to ship you out to your MOS school. So when they're like, okay, you're going to Motor T, which is Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. And I remember arguing with them, like, no, I know for a fucking fact I signed for comm operator, and everybody's trying to say, don't do comm operator. Like, it's gonna suck. Because going through my training, they had some guys that were reservists. So we were already in our digital uniforms, but they were still in their tri-camies, and they had experienced what it was like to see what the comm operators do. And they're like, no, 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 don't do it. And so they were trying to say, just go do your motor transport operator. You'll have a lot of fun. They're like, well, at least do you have a driver's license? And I was like, yeah, why would I not have one? They're like, well, you're going regardless. So I ended up getting motor transport operator, and I would have never regretted it. So it was the best experience of my entire life. And actually seeing what comm operators do, I would have been miserable. They sit around all day. So yes, I was very impressed with getting the MOS by accident that I got. Much loved it. It reminded me of being back home with the boys, being in with the trucks, and I would sneak off into maintenance, but that's another story in its own. But yes, I had a good time. So kind of moving forward, I know there's other things of like going and stuff like that. there's like the delayed entry program. Were any of you involved with this? I know myself, I never was. My experience was different, but Brody, what was your experience like going in?
Yeah. So after MEPS, I did have to join the delayed entry program because the Cavalry Scouts only have one cycle a year, and it starts like August or September. I can't remember, but
Okay.
so I signed up in January, and like I had to keep on checking in with my recruiter here and there. It actually gave me opportunity to do like the I don't know. You had to do like the PT test and like know the amendments, the Bill of Rights and shit like that. But afterwards, you would get promoted to E2. So I finished that up, and then in about June, like very beginning of June, that's when I actually took the bus and went all the way to Fort Knox, Kentucky. And I sat in these old ass barracks just fucking waiting for months. It was awful.
Oh
Um,
my God.
so I actually was on a waiver because I was the requirements were 120 for weight, and I was at 116. And so I got an actual waiver where I could go to the DFAC and eat anything I wanted, ice cream, didn't matter. So they basically let me sit there and fatten up for a little bit. But I was there for a good like 2.5 months, like waiting to actually join like OSIT training. So
Dang.
it was a process, like from January all the way to like August or September, I was just twiddling my thumbs. It was it was a kind of a killer, actually.
Dang.
What about you, Nolan?
What
Yeah.
was the question specifically?
Delayed entry.
Yeah, we're
Um, I was in delayed entry program for about a year. Because when school started my senior year and my friend came back for the recruiter assistance for after boot camp, right? So he doesn't use his leave after boot camp, one of the little scams we all run, right? And I went down there, and when I signed the contract for delayed entry program, I was in high school, so my whole senior year I was in delayed entry program. So I had to just basically like every couple months I had to run a mile and a half just to make sure you could do a mile and a half in I don't even remember what the time was, 15 minutes they asked for. I can't remember. But that was all the requirement they did. They didn't do drill. I didn't have to show up for that. And when I did show up for that, I was in charge of it. I was doing the drill. Yeah, because I was a drill. I mean, like I actually did drill team, unarmed drill team. Ran a squad, a full squad. Did the whole fancy drilling of that. So they had me do it. So that's kind of why like the army wanted me because like they're like, oh, I'll be his bitch boy and I'll be doing drill practice with these guys for a year while I'm in high school. And they can just go and smoke and joke inside where it's air conditioned.
uh,
Yeah, I'd say
I
about
know
a year.
that's not bad. I know myself, I told you guys I never was because my first time, like they just needed me like right away, like switching from the Navy right into the Marine Corps. I was just in boot camp right away. But my second time round, so I had like a year and a half broken service time. So going back in, I think I was just lingering around for a month, but they shipped me off immediately to my MCT. And I kind of hung out there for like a month until it started up their new, I guess, class or whatever it's called. So I kind of just hung around. They didn't want me sticking back home around the office anymore, which I'm pretty sure they were sick of me because I fought so very hard to get back into the Marine Corps and I annoyed the crap out of them to the point I think they just wanted to
Yeah.
get rid of me and just gave me what I wanted. Oh, I was a sore in their ass. Trust me. They remember me. But they respected me for it. They respected me because they saw a lot of potential, especially those run. Sorry to get off track for a split second, but the runs in Manitou Springs when we go into the Garden of the Gods, they're mountains, not hills. And I was keeping up with them the whole time. So I showed that I was ready. So
Nice.
but anyways, good times. Something I was kind of thinking about just now while we were talking. I don't know about you guys, but did any of your parents, more like maybe your fathers would probably do this with you, not so much moms, but did your guys' dads go with you guys ever to any of these meetings with your recruiters?
Yeah.
Brody?
I mean, no, I was having a lot of issues with my parents at that time.
Oh,
I
okay.
mean, I
You don't have to
remember
share.
telling my mom about it. They were in like New York City, Times Square when I called her and said I joined the army, and she started crying and hung up on me. And then when she got back, she actually slapped me.
Sign the contract!
Like when I first seen
That's
her when she came home, like she fucking slapped me. So that's kind of how that went. But yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't have much support there.
yeah. What about you, Alex? Did your parents ever go with you to these meetings, or did you just kind of go
No,
on your
yeah,
own?
that's the one I had. The recruiter came to the house, and I was like, "Well, since we're gonna have this, dude, you can listen in on it." And I was like, "But
Yeah,
don't get all upset because you're gonna hear something you don't want to hear. Then, dude, don't ask the question. Then and they asked, well, why do you want to do it? And that's why I told them. But
okay.
it was just because, but like he already knew because I was in RTC for the 4 years. I was like, well, this is what I've been gearing up to do since 9/11, dude. Like, why else would I not want to go do my part?
Of course. What about you, Nolan?
They had like it's like a potluck, I want to say, and it was
Hmm.
they would have the guys who are there on recruiters assistants that are in the Marines, so they're young Marine, they've been in for a year or so, and they would come and they would talk to the moms. My mom didn't have to do that. The only thing my dad did, because my mom's excited, youngest of 5 kids, get the hell out of the house. My dad, he just wanted to make sure I didn't get screwed, so he made sure he listened a little bit at the beginning when I signed the contract, so he was there. We only lived like a quarter mile from the recruiter station, and like I literally walked to the recruiter station when I had to go. I mean, it was that close. Um, but my dad was there at the beginning. Now, scratch back, go back to middle school when I was ditching, and I did summer school. My dad took me down to the recruiters, and he says, my son wants to join the military. What does he need to be in the military? He said, well, first thing he needs is he needs a high school diploma. My dad's like, stop right there. That's all I need to know. And he's like, you got to get your high school diploma. And he walks me out, and that was kind of the beginning. So now that I'm a senior in high school, I'm already 18. My dad still went down there with me to make sure that I was getting screwed because he was also in the Coast Guard as an E5, petty officer, second class. So he knew that games can be played by recruiters because he himself has enlisted.
Okay.
Mhm.
That's awesome. I know my if anybody did go with me, it would have been my stepdad at the time. I don't think they ever met my parents the first time around. Like I was just in so fast, and my parents were even shocked to think me just going in the military alone. But the Marine Corps, they're like, "Are you sure? Are you sure?" I remember getting these weird looks from my stepdad because his brother went was a Marine in Vietnam War, so he was really scared I was going to turn out psychotic probably and cut off people's fingers and wear necklaces and shoot up the. I'm like, no, that ain't me, honey. I'm just fucked up in the head. But anyways, moving just fucked up in the head. Moving forward, but the second time around, he did have to go with me a couple times more because going back in, it was a little different. There were certain rules I had to like clear up, like getting an affidavit saying, yes, I want to stop my benefits with the VA. I want to go into the Marine Corps because of this reason. So there's a lot more steps going in. And because I was very still young at the time, comprehending a lot of this stuff they wanted, my stepdad had to help me with this stuff to making sure it got done. So those were pretty much the only time visits going in, but also making sure that I was staying out of trouble too because that's when I was having a heavy foot too. So they're like, you gotta behave yourself, stop getting speeding tickets. Which brings me to my next question: waivers. Were there any waivers that you guys had to have going in? What about you? Go for it, Road.
Man, I tell you what, you know what they say, like they seal your records if you were a minor? That shit didn't happen. They immediately
Really?
so I actually sold drugs to this doctor, and we were on the roof of his practice smoking up, and these cops all of a sudden were on the roof with us, and fuck. So I actually took the blame for the doctor, and so I got a small possession charge, and it wasn't that big of a deal. It was like a minor ticket. I can't remember. It's like $100 or something. And but that was when I was 17, and they said as long as I pay it, as soon as I hit 18, it's off my record. Nope, the recruiters found that immediately, and so I had to talk to this. I still don't know if this was real or not, but I had to talk to a colonel over the phone, and he asked me some questions to kind of gauge my character. I bet that's what I kind of feel like it was. And he signed a waiver, no problem, after talking with him. But I kind of feel like it was a fucking recruiter, like in another office, just like. But that's besides the point. But yeah, I ended up having to get a waiver because I did have a small possession charge. So
Okay. What about you, Mr.
it
Alex?
probably was a recruiter, dude. Like some colonel from headquarters. He's been doing it for 20 years. Like, all right, man, let me phone call this kid. I'll be able to get it out of him or not.
yeah, yep.
Alex, I don't feel like you had a waiver. You were like a virgin to these guys.
I
Like,
should
we
have.
want you back
I should have
in.
gotten a waiver, dude. When I went into boot camp with all the motherfuckers that I saw with an ASVAB waiver, that 30, Nolan, I gotten an ASVAB waiver right then and there instead of taking the test 3 times and paying for it.
What?
Shit. No, I had to be. So this is probably hitting up on another question, but it went along the lines of like I had to be immaculate. Like no tattoos, no gang related, no charges. Like the Marines weren't accepting shit. And so I figured, oh fuck, dude, if I can't get that 31, I can't even get in. I'm 1 point away. My name's not misspelled. You get 2 points for just putting your name on there, right? and no, so I had to have everything golden. That's why I was doing the ROTC. I get to boot camp. And I find out there's a goddamn waiver for everything, dude.
Yeah.
And we had there had to have been at least, the 10%, like, right? That there was at least 10 or 8 out of the 80, 85 guys in my platoon that were ASVAB waivers. There's probably at least 8. And man, now wish I had that. I had to get that 48 on the ASVAB. So I know a guy so we had a dude in my platoon who, we had 2 of them. One was 34, 35, and the other was like 30, 31. And they were the only cats I've ever met to be aged waiver. So that's a thing. Marines
We had a couple of those in our boot
go
camp.
past that.
Okay, I never heard of that either. Okay, that's a lot of waivers. Like it was different in 99, 2000, that school year with Clinton, because like you would talk to a recruiter would be like, "Stop right there. Do you think that's a reason for you to keep you out of the Marine Corps?"
I used to suck dick for coke.
Okay, let's not talk about that. Keep going. Stop right there. Do you also think that's a reason to not be in the Marine Corps? Okay, well, just don't tell anybody about that one. But when he asked about the weed, I was like, yeah, no, I smoke occasionally, and like literally, I probably smoked like 12 times all 4 years in high school, right? Like not that many times I smoked weed. But I did smoke weed, and so they had me down as a waiver on marijuana. And I wish I never told them, because it's not like I was going to MEPS anytime soon, because I was still in high school. Like this was in January, right? Like I still got 4 months left of school. And when I was in the Marines, because of that waiver, I got like 125% piss call. So that means I did the normal 100%. And then on the 25% that they pull from the unit later in the month to do a second piss test, I did that. So I did a lot of piss tests. Like I had a lot of staff sergeants see my penis.
No bullshit. Real football? Against the guards?
Full contact.
Captain Canower's a quarterback?
Yep.
So I get to tackle him
Yeah, you can either tackle him or hit him over the head with that hammer.
I want to hurt him, not kill him.
A lot. Like,
You're not even a porno star, man.
Right?
I'm a grower, not a shower.
I heard they
Should have
get
started
paid per shot,
OnlyFans
you
page
know?
after all that. It's funny. I don't think I had to do any waivers. Yeah, mine was pretty basic. If I did any waivers, I don't remember what they were, but it was more geared towards when I was going back in. I probably had to have some type of waivers. Let's also kind of talk about like when you were at MEP, how long before you went to MEPS? So like when you from the recruiter station going to MEPS, how long did it take you to?
Mine was like within a week. Like I mean, I was ready to go out. They told me like to wait a little while and think about things and all that, and I'm like, nah, like let's go, let's get this shit moving. So I went immediately.
Okay. What
Okay,
about you,
yeah.
Alex? When did you go to MEPS?
So
Like, was it soon, like right after high school, or what's going on? Or in high school, I should say.
I'm trying to think because I depped in right after my birthday. I was still in high school. I was just waiting for graduation. I might have gone to MEPS while I was in high school, but I think I might have just done that like after like it was just a date that was set. So it might have been after I graduated. I'm not sure how long. It was just like a hey dude, we got you on the board. You're going to MEPS um to do the first shit on this day, and then here's your boot camp date. And then on the boot camp date, it was like 2 days prior because you talking about the MEPS when you stayed overnight in the hotel,
Yeah.
or just the
Mhm.
first, because the first initial one probably would have been sometime after graduation around summertime, and then it was I went in September, beginning of September. So I want to say I probably went to MEPS like September. It was September 2nd. I got to the recruit depot, so probably like September 1st. Like I went to MEPS, did that last initial thing, stayed in the hotel, got my last meal. The next day, we did the whole rest of the shit there, and then I went on a little white bus because I was just going from the hotel, literally like 45 minutes down the road to uh the recruit depot. So like, yeah, for that one, it was within the next day.
Oh, that's
Yeah. What
fast.
about you, Nolan?
Um, when I did my waiver, I had to, okay, so before I did the waiver, I had to go take the ASVAB. I unked the first time. So I failed the first time that I took it like my junior year in the library. And then my senior year, after talking to Marine Corps recruiters, because like the recruiter with the Army is like, don't worry about it. You know, you're a junior, wait a little longer. But my senior year, I had to go up to MEPS, and when I did it up there, I remember specifically because it wasn't pen and paper or pencil and paper. It was actually a computer with like 4 or 5 buttons on the keyboard. It was just 4 or 5 keys, A, B, C, D, right? And so I did that, and it was timed. Remember, they tell you it's timed and all that. And I passed, and I can't remember what it was. It might have been a 31, might have been a 35. I can't remember. It was in the 30s. And good enough for government work, right? So literally, pun intended, not intended,
Alright.
shit. Fucking, I was in delayed entry program, maybe not a year, maybe like 8 or 9 months now that I think about it. And then right before I went to boot camp, I took the train up, the Amtrak up to Sacramento. And I remember we were trying to get a pack of cigarettes. We got a pack of cigarettes. One of the dudes, like, I can call my friend. We can go over to Reno or Tahoe and get liquor because it's 24-hour liquor and in Reno. And the guy's like, no, he said not to fucking leave the hotel tonight. Like whatever, right? So we went to boot camp the next day. So it was were the 2 times that I was at MEPS. So I want to say there was probably about 7 or 8 months in between.
Okay. Yeah, mine was like, shoot, that weekend, like my first time going in, like when I was introduced to the Marine Corps, yeah, he's like, hey, this Friday we got a we call it ASVAB test. So I took that, and I remember I scored well enough
Placement
for whatever.
exam.
Sorry,
Placement exam? Is it the placement exam or the physical?
just the placement exam. I was taking that.
Okay.
Yeah, I was taking that, and like that was already within like 2 days of meeting these people, and then like within a week, they already got me doing all the doctor stuff. So yeah, it was crazy.
The duck walk. Everybody do
But
the duck walk.
Yeah.
just making sure I was a
Yeah.
girl. But I was gonna say going in the second time was a little different because of my situation. I still took the ASVAB real quick, but like going up was always a little bit different because the doctors had to observe me differently versus everybody else was just making sure you're healthy enough because I got out of the military with knee problems. So they wanted to constantly do these reevaluations, making sure my knee was strong enough. I wasn't gonna have this patella tendonitis that they kept calling it. I was like, okay, I'm fine. I played hockey. But
PG.
moving on, did you guys have any experiences with the doctors yourselves? Like, what'd you think of them?
I mean, everything was pretty normal. I mean, like, are you talking about the whole process of MEPS?
Yeah, was there anything surprising that came up about you, the
Yeah.
doctors, not so much the task, but even
Yeah,
the
I
staff?
actually, you guys are gonna love this. Army green, right? Like, I found out
Oh,
that
well,
I
yeah.
was colorblind to green.
It's an egg. Can't you see it? Right there.
It's bright green.
And that actually disqualified me to, like, I couldn't be a chopper pilot or nothing like that. But I thought it was pretty funny that I had no idea I was colorblind. Um, so that kind of threw a wrench in things. Uh, Obviously, the other thing too was like the 91-year-old tiny little Asian lady who stuck her finger up my butt. That was kind of weird. Uh, I don't know if you
Yeah.
guys had to do that. Uh,
I
No.
had a male check
No.
on me, and I was like, that was uncomfortable for my very first time without my parents.
Well,
yeah, so
I'd have to
it
agree
was,
with Beth there because my male doctor had a weird smile on his face
Uh-oh.
and, doing the whole cup and the ball, turn your head and cough. Like that was about the only weird thing was, and he didn't have a glove on too. He did one of these when he was done. I was just kind of,
Buddy.
like,
Jesus.
it was just normal, man. I don't really think, now that when Nolan mentioned it, the duck walk, you realize, the flat foot thing, from wearing skater shoes or just some people have that genetic, like they're flat footed. So you'd see how like some of like they couldn't do that because they didn't have the arch in their foot. It was hard for them to like balance on their tiptoes. And I was like, I didn't really think
yeah.
that was a thing. But no.
But Nolan, what was your experience like in
They hated their
anything?
jobs. They
Oh God, yeah,
fucking hated their jobs. Like
especially the
these
ones with the
people were
desks.
fucking miserable. Okay. And there was a dragon lady, an old Asian lady. She did not, she was there to collect the urine. I remember that. She was really loud and angry. And then I remember there was a staff sergeant and he was a Marine. And this was the first time, that I went up there and he has to read that paragraph to you that you lie to us, you will be in prison for no less than da 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 and a fine of $50,000 or whatever, right? Like that warning they give you when they read you the riot act, basically, if you fucking lie to us. And then
Yes.
the next thing, only other thing I remember was I had 2010 eyesight. I was like, oh, cool. I didn't even know that was a thing.
Oh yeah. Vision, right? Oh my gosh. There's
I
only
thought
a couple
2020
experiences.
was the best, right? Like 2020 was the best. Nobody ever said 2010, right?
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I know. And I was gonna say my experience. I've only had two unusual experiences. It was the doctor again, checking to see if you're like a female. And it's just, I was like, dude, this is not cool. I'm like, where's the nurse? The same thing when you're staying there taking your oath or whatever, and you're swearing in. Dude, the guy was speaking so fast I couldn't remember what he said. So thank God there were so many other people in there because I was just kind of mumbling it as I was going along. I'm like, yeah, just let's get done with this. I don't know what I'm swearing into. Let's just go. So I remember that being the most awkward situation ever. So yeah, that was
You
mine.
gotta do the cough. I remember the cough, you know.
Yeah, I don't remember that one, I guess. But I'm
But I
pretty sure they
don't
had me
remember
do all
nobody
kinds.
sticking a finger up my ass. Okay,
Oh, I
that's
do remember being very proud of my duck walk. I'm like, that's what you want me to do? I didn't understand at first what it was for. I'm like, are they checking my flexibility? I was like, okay, I can do this. And I'm just waddling, whatever. So yeah, so proud of myself. And I'm like, it's just to see if you have flat feet. And I was like, oh, whatever. All right. Anyways, moving forward. So kind of after doing the MEPS and stuff like that, after signing on the dotted line, how long was it till the wait, like going into boot camp?
I mean, we kind of talked about this already, but I
Yeah,
think January I had already signed and all that, and then it took till June for me to actually ship out to Fort Knox.
a
So
couple months. Okay, that's
I don't, I
right.
can't do math. That's like a couple months or something.
Right. Alex, what about yourself? How long did you have to wait after you signed?
Yeah, after the first initial MEPS, yeah, it was like 2, 3
Instantaneously.
months. I had the
Okay.
just graduated high school, did all that, so I had the summer off, and yeah, I'd say probably about 2 months
Okay.
before I went
What
back
about
for the
yourself?
second MEPS hotel stay.
so.
Okay. What about you,
I would
Dylan?
say it's different, you know, because I had the delayed entry program I signed into, but when I actually signed on the dotted line and swore in,
Yeah,
uh, it was that morning we got on a plane to San Diego, and I was at San Diego like by noon, and I was chilling there for 12 fucking hours at the USO building until they showed up at midnight to pick us up the following morning. So some guys were smart enough taking naps because the recruiters told them to. I didn't know about that. So
Mm,
literally, instead of the 24 hours they expect you to stay awake, tack on another fucking, you know, 18 hours or whatever it was. We were in motion and whatever. Nobody told us that shit, right? But it was at the
right.
USO. I was there that whole time. And I remember like when we got there, the recruiter said, or the drill instructor said, get shit can all your fucking tobacco products. You can't take it in. And then you see them go over there and pick up the fucking Copenhagen from the Texans. Like they were fucking, oh, that's a full can.
Oh my goodness. With me, I don't know. I don't really have anything to say up on that one. It was just real quick, in and out. But actually, before we do it, kind of wrap this up, there's something I want to kind of add on to this, Brody. I know we talk about ourselves a lot, but you have a son that just went into the Space Force. Let's talk about that because we're talking about MEPS right now, and he just experienced that. What was that experience like for you and him going through that with him?
Yeah, so I mean, going through when I went through, like I think we all kind of got a little bit lied to, like we kind of there a little bit scummy kind of feeling, but I mean, we got through it. It's not like that anymore. Like everything is like completely like it takes the recruiter out of the situation and it's like you're interfacing with like I mean when Cody went through he had like a tablet like he it was all computer based everything was computers so
Okay.
when they pulled up MOSs it was that he could choose from. I mean, it was like it had a written bonus that everyone gets. It how many slots were open. It all that information wasn't guesswork from the recruiter's mouth. It was all from, the actual computer, their stats or
system.
whatever. Yeah.
So I
So
have a question
he
before
actually
you move
got
on. Isn't
what's
did
that?
he have to go into the Air Force first before he went into Space Force? How did that go before you move on to like how the recruiters kind of guided him?
So the Space Force right now is kind of like under the wing of the Air Force. And
Okay.
the way it kind of works is you can't sign up, like they don't have Space Force recruiters, like you can't go to a
Right. I
recruiting
didn't think
station and
so.
see that. So you have to go to the Air Force recruiter and they're kind of like they'll expressed like, hey, would you be open for the Space Force? And he was like, yeah, like that's awesome. And I was with him the whole time doing all this stuff. But you kind of have to, like, the Air Force will set you up with like a job, or like you'll kind of do the recruiting with the Air Force. And then on the side, they'll pull in the Space Force recruiter, they'll talk to the recruit and kind of get them going on the Space Force. And then the Space Force becomes the primary. And if it doesn't work out with the Space Force, because they're very selective right now, I mean, super selective, they don't even have 10,000 people yet. So if that doesn't work out, then you'll go back to the Air Force.
Okay.
But the whole process was like super straightforward. It wasn't like word of mouth at all. Like it was all on paper. Like you can see the system, which is really kind of cool.
Yeah, it's more
Um,
organized.
yeah, there's certain differences. I don't know if it's like differences like in the Army. I'm sure the Marines too. Like you can get a guaranteed MOS. In the Air Force or Space Force, you can't. You
Okay.
cannot. So you have to write down like top 10, and they may pick from that, or they could stick you wherever. So it's like an
Okay.
open contract type deal.
Okay.
Um, but he did the MEPS thing just like us. The government's still the government. They actually, when he got done with it, because he volunteered to go first, which is awesome. But he got done first, and they put him in this separate room, and then forgot about him. And he was in there for like 6 hours, and then like this cleaning person came in and was like turning like they were gonna turn off the lights on him and shit. And he's like, I'm still here. Like, so the government's still the government. Um, but he had no issues at MEPS. Like he did really well on everything. It just seemed like things are so much more straightforward. And I mean, I guess we've had like 20 years of war to kind of perfect the whole MEPS and the whole recruiting process now. So it's definitely perfected now. Yeah, he got in
Good.
the Space Force, which was kind of cool. Is more extreme stuff than probably we went through. They had to do an FBI like whole background check. Like, I mean, it was very serious because going into the Space Force, you get the top secret clearance right away.
All
So
right.
they had to vet
Like
him.
we only get secret, he automatically gets top secret. That's dope.
Yeah, yeah. Congratulations to your kid, by the way. That's amazing.
Oh yeah, he's doing awesome.
What's he doing in the Space Force? What's his MOS?
His job, field.
Yeah, so originally it was going to be satellite communications, which they're actually taking that MOS out of the Army and out of the Marines, and I think the Navy too. And they're giving it to the Space Force. So Space Force would be embedded with Marine units to do their satellite communications.
Fuck
Um,
yeah.
yeah, so I was like, that's really cool. And when he got there, uh, he didn't really like it. Like, he thought it was kind of lame. It was kind of going upstream. And so he had expressed that to one of his, like, the cadre there that are doing the training. And they're like, oh, well, we can absolutely move your MOS, which in
What?
the Army or the Marines, I don't think
Yeah,
that
they're like,
Initiative.
go fuck yourself.
Right.
He
Well, you don't
had
like
the
your job?
initiative, right? He
Right.
had the initiative to go up to them, and they're like, "Oh, you got initiative? Okay, you want more work?"
Yeah, so they immediately were like, yeah, we'll absolutely pull you out. And they started the transition period, and he had to pick other classes or like MOSs. And he was hoping for Intel, but it was the same thing, open contract again.
Mhm.
Um, but he ended up with satellite um, defense systems. I can't remember what it's actually called because you can't even find the information out there, but it's like where
Yeah.
they put like missiles on satellites. So it's fucking
Okay.
badass.
Interesting.
So he's going to be like an engineer that basically designs and builds and that type of stuff for satellite defense
Okay.
systems.
Interesting. I like
And
that.
since he's like part of the first breed going through for the Space Force, like you're gonna be pioneering all that shit, man, figuring it out,
Getting
helping
history
it.
right now.
So it's like that's cool,
Are we
dude.
allowed to talk about that though? I mean, should we not talk about his MOS?
No,
I
no,
don't
that's
know.
out there. It's online. I just can't
Okay,
remember it.
okay. Okay, making sure because I'm like, we all gonna get our doors kicked in now?
No, let's just put it this way. There's stuff that he won't even be able to discuss with us as parents.
Oh
And
yeah,
so everything that he is feeding us, we can share. It's not a big
of
deal, but
course.
Okay,
That's
okay.
yeah.
good.
Because
Well, this
that's
has been a
like,
good
I
show.
mean, that's the one thing about his gig versus like being a grunt is like I could talk all day grunt stuff, at the bar with some chick trying to pick her up. What can he say? He's probably got to have a little card. Okay, today I am
Work
Yeah.
for NASA, bitch.
Pull out the refresher, what not to say,
Yeah.
what you can't say.
Limo briefings would be different, like freaking a grunt unit, like make sure you're in mop level 5 when you're putting on that clone going town. And this kid, like, loose lips sink ships, homie.
And like when I told him, like when he expressed interest in joining, I told him, like go Air Force because they really do have it made. You've seen those fucking like we're sitting in tents, and then like the Air Force has like their own little billets, like air conditioning and shit like that. And
Little personal
they
toilet
have it made.
chimes. They
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
So I told him to do that, and there is just huge stark differences. Like in basic training, like every like weekend they have what is called porch time, where they can go to a vending machine and they can go outside on this porch and just like hang out and like chill out and shit. They don't actually qualify on a range with their rifles. It's like they're shooting that paper target from 50 yards. That's it.
Mhm.
No ruck marches. No, I mean, just very different.
Damn.
Very different. Even their drill sergeants couldn't even, or I can't remember what the hell they're called, but they can't like yell at the recruit, and they can't be within like so many feet either. So like they can't get closer than like 3 feet away from the recruit. I mean, it's just
My God.
totally different than what I went through. I never even seen a vending machine. I couldn't even make phone calls. Cody could have a cell
Yeah.
phone. Like, I mean, well, he had a cell phone for certain times or whatever, but I mean, just
That's
very different. Very different. I'm
One
happy
phone
for him.
call. One phone call home from boot camp because we won like initial drill or something like that. And that was the only phone call we got. And it was like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had one recruit who was promised a phone call if he took top place in the Pugil sticks. Man, he didn't get that shit. He didn't get he was promised McDonald's. Another one got promised McDonald's because we were out there. The drone instructors would go off on their lunch and go get something. He didn't get that shit.
Oh, man.
I'm
all right,
really
guys.
happy
Let's
for
wrap
him.
this
I'm
up.
All right,
glad.
we
Actually,
wrapping it up?
yeah, we need to wrap it up. We've been talking a bit.
All right.
All right. Well,
Okay.
again, this has been what is this called? Yeah, the Millennial Anti-Terror.
Anti-millennial terrorizers.
And it's been great. Look forward to seeing you guys again soon.